Morning and good grief. This is not going to have anything to do with Charlie Brown, so I'm really sorry if that's disappointing to folks. It's actually about grief and how we can be better at it, how we can talk about it more, and to answer the question, how can we fully be present in grief in our organizations? Now, what does this have to do with training and being a trainer? Quick quiz. Sorry, Jesse. How many of you are humans? Okay, this is creepy. I only saw about half of the hands go up, so I guess this just applies to whoever our humans are. All right, we'll take it from here. So, when we think of grief, we know that losing a loved one is devastating, be it a pet, be it a friend, a relative. These are human losses, these are deep losses that impact anyone. Is anybody untouched by grief? No, probably not. But wait, there's more. I stole without permission from my therapist what he calls is a list of grievables. So not only do we lose our loved ones and our pets, we lose our dreams. You can grieve your hopes. You can grieve your youth. You can grieve the tree that was removed from your yard that you really loved. You can even grieve when you're sending your baby to college this month because it's a loss, right? It's a great thing that he's moving on, but it's also a loss. So on top of the laundry list of grievables with our loved ones, we also have this list just to keep adding to the complexity of grief. But we suck at it. Right? Why? Why does our culture suck at it? Maybe it's us. Maybe it's our organizations. Maybe it's our culture. Whatever the case may be. But it starts with these fun little policies, right? If somebody dies, I'm really sorry to hear that. You're going to need to prove to me that you were at a funeral and that you were related to that person and whatever birth certificate, documentation, Ellis Island, whatever you have, we're going to need to see that. And then at that time, you can get 1 to 3 days off, depending on who it is and what's going on. But if that's not enough, then you can take unpaid time. You can also add finances to your list of things to worry about when you're estate planning and figuring out what to do next. You get maybe 2 days, maybe 3 days, maybe more days. But also, we are going to tell you who counts. Grandma, 3. Best friend, sorry. Stepmom, 3. I don't want 3 for my stepmom. To be clear, I don't have a stepmom, but that was just an example. So we try to tell people what people are worth. And say, sorry, you can't grieve, you can't take time for your best friend. But Uncle Lou, who you haven't seen for 5 years, sure, take a day for him. And you kind of want to start exchanging them, right? So what can we do? Well, first of all, we need to understand how grief shows up in our organizations. So if we do not give people the time and the opportunity to properly grieve, their body will show up. Their productivity isn't there, their attitude is tanked, and they have to think about, wow, this entity just told me how to grieve and in how many days. And I have to be honest, I really regret, and I don't even believe in regret, I believe in learning from things, but for 2 decades, I was part of the machine. HR typically sets these policies, typically enforces them, and typically asks for proof that you've been to a funeral. I'm really sad that I was part of that, so now I'm doing what I can to change it and to talk about it and to put it out there so that organizations understand that if we don't let people grieve, we are holding them back. We're hurting each other by not allowing it and by not talking about it and not allowing the space. So what can you do? What can we do? We can talk about it, which is why I'm here, and really go back to your organizations and think about how you handle grief. ideally, I'm thankful to be in an environment now where if someone experiences a loss, we say, take the time you need, tell us what we can take off your plate. There's no numbers. There's no numbers, there's no days, there's no who counts, because we are not in a position to tell you that. You're in the position to grieve, and we honor that. So use your voices, use your influence, and go back and maybe question, hey, what is our bereavement policy? And see if you can maybe influence making changes to be a little bit more humane so that we can become good at grief. This is my dad. 20 years ago today, he passed. And I did not know that when I said, hey, something came to me. I want to do a chart talk on grief. Okay, whatever. Calendar pops up, and it's August 3rd. And a lot of what I've learned about grief, I learned from losing him unexpectedly. And the biggest thing that I've learned is that there's no way around grief. You have to go through it. And if you don't go through it consciously, you'll go through it subconsciously until you're lying on a floor somewhere. So be kind with yourself. I quoted myself. I think that's kind of fun. So the only wrong way to grieve is to not give ourselves the opportunity to do so. So I wish you good grieving.